name's Tony Patty, and we wish you a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us right here on the Great Big Indian Wellness Show. We are very privileged and proud to have with us today Dr. Sarah Eager, who joins us today. And Dr. Sarah is going to be talking to us about self-compassion. And self-compassion is an inner strength we can actually cultivate. So we face our failings with kindness, patience, and also understanding. And this talk today with Sarah will actually explore the links between our body, mind, and soul, and how by using our deepest innate spiritual qualities, we can meet our own pain and suffering with patience and kindness, and also care as well. Directing feelings of compassion inwards and learning how to focus our attention and energy on supporting ourselves can become the key tools in self-healing and building resilience within ourselves. So let me wish a very warm welcome to Dr. Sarah Eager, who joins us today. Dr. Sarah, hello.
Hi, Tony. Thank you so much for that warm introduction. So today, I don't have a lot of time, but I would very much like just to share with you some ideas around self-compassion, because there's been a lot of research into this lately, and it's shown how much this quality of self-compassion can help us with physical and mental well-being and enhance our sense of strength, inner strength and resilience. And I'd just like to start by first looking at the word compassion itself, because before we look at self-compassion, it's useful to think about what does compassion mean to me. So just reflect for a minute. What does compassion mean to you? Now, I'm sure you will have had thoughts around when someone treats you with kindness, when someone can see that you're in pain or you're suffering, that when you're going through a tough time, that someone's able to respond to you. And that is indeed the root of compassion. In fact, the word means to suffer with. And the Dalai Lama has said a very nice thing about compassion, that it's the wish that all sentient beings may be free from suffering. And another psychologist from the UK has said it's the deep awareness of the suffering of oneself and other living beings, but coupled with the wish and effort to alleviate it. And this is the really important thing, is that compassion, it's different to empathy, because although we need to empathize to see what someone's going through, it's also coupled with this idea that we want, or this feeling that we want to help someone out of their suffering. So that's very powerful, that we are not just noticing that someone's in pain or suffering or having a tough time, but we really want to do something about it. So it's quite energizing, it's activating. And there's a lovely saying from Myanmar, which connects this practice of loving kindness, which a lot of meditators would be very familiar with. So when the sunshine of loving kindness meets the tears of suffering, the rainbow of compassion arises. It's a very powerful feeling. And if you look up compassion in the thesaurus, there's lots of nice words like brotherly love, tenderness, kindness, empathy, sympathy. So you get a real feeling for this energy, that it's a soothing, it's a comforting, it's a taking care of kind of energy. And I'd like you just to think of, just do a little thought experiment and think of a time maybe when you were with someone who was suffering, someone who was going through a bad time or was ill or had failed or had misfortune. And just recall how you were with that person. What did you say? What was your tone of voice? What were your actions? And just reflect on that for a moment. So maybe someone that you love or a family member is going through a tough time. How did you respond to them? So just bringing that image to mind. And Now I'd like you to think of a time when you were going through a tough time. Say you had a misfortune or failed or felt inadequate or unwell, something bad has happened. Now just notice, how do you talk to yourself? What's your language, your tone of voice? What kind of actions do you do? Maybe just think of a time when that's happened to you recently. And I think a lot of people will notice there's a difference between those two responses. And in fact, they have done research on this and shown that about 80% of people say that they're actually kinder to others than they are to themselves. And about 18% say they're about equally kind to themselves as others. And about 2% say they're kinder to themselves than they are to others. But that's fairly rare. So it's a very common pattern that somehow when things are going bad, when we're having a bad, tough time, or something's happened that's really challenged us, our natural response is often to put ourselves down. And that's for a lot of reasons. You know, we could be the voices from our childhood that we've internalized, things that we've learned, and we tend to be quite self-critical a lot of the time. So this art of self-compassion, this ability to use that energy of compassion, which you know you have because you can show it to others, but use it for yourself, is a really useful skill and an important one to learn. And a person, again, the Dalai Lama, has spoken about this and shown that really to develop genuine compassion towards others, you have to have a basis on which to cultivate compassion. And that is the ability to connect with your own feelings and to care for your own welfare. So it's just an important premise, really, that caring for others means caring for ourselves. And because psychologists noticed that people were not very good at doing that, they've developed several programs, and one is called Mindful Self-Compassion. And one of the people who developed this program is a psychologist in America called Kristen Neff. And she describes self-compassion very simply as giving the same supportive and understanding response that you would to yourself as you would to a good friend. So with self-compassion, we give ourselves the same kindness and care we'd give to a good friend. So that's really like becoming your own best friend, you know. And often we react when things are not going so well. We tend to see the negative side, the glass half empty. You know, why did I mess up? Why did I do such a bad thing? Oh, I'm so stupid. I'm an idiot. You know, the kind of things we can say to ourselves. And it's learning the habit to say something kind to ourselves when we're suffering, to give ourselves that support that's so important. And this, she says there are three components of self-compassion. One is mindfulness, which is balanced awareness. And this is something that all forms of meditation will teach. This idea that really being able to turn within and recognize, how am I feeling? What's going on inside me? And there's a nice little saying, you've got to feel it to heal it. Often when we're not feeling good inside, we tend to avoid ourselves. We distract ourselves with a million things that we can distract ourselves with these days, or we suppress feelings. And really, by bringing kindness and compassion, we learn to sit with those feelings, to accept them, to be with them. Another component of self-compassion is this idea of common humanity. And often when we're going through a tough time, we feel very isolated. We feel alone. We feel that we're the only one who's going through this thing. But in fact, we all suffer. This is part of the human condition. And everyone else will have times in their lives when things are not going well and it's hard. And so rather than separating us, really the idea that we suffer or we go through a tough time is something that connects us, and it enables us to really resonate and empathize when other people are going through tough times as well, and then to do something about it. And the third component is this idea of self-kindness. And you may ask, how can you give yourself kindness? Well, there are lots of practices, meditation practices, visualization, just good self-care, going for a nice walk in nature instead of going for another bottle of wine, making healthy choices for yourself. There are lots and lots of things to this dimension of self-kindness. But there are some very powerful practices: breathing in compassion for yourself, breathing out compassion for others, many different things that you can learn that help boost this energy of self-compassion. So this is just to give you a quick introduction to what we're talking about when we talk about self-compassion and how it connects to that practice of meditation and self-care. And so just to finish, I'd like to, again, just give you a very short meditation to give you an example or an experience of what I'm talking about. So one thing that triggers this feeling of self-compassion or compassion, and one very important one, is soothing touch. I think when you were thinking of a friend or a loved one who was suffering, I'm sure a lot of you gave them a hug. That's a very natural response to someone who's suffering, to give them a hug or hold their hand or stroke their arm and say, there, it's okay. And I'm sure your words were very gentle and positive and soothing. The tone of voice would have been kind. So these are triggers of compassion, and we can use that for ourselves. So a very common and powerful one when people are feeling that they're upset or distressed is just to put your hand on your heart. And I'm going to use that now in a little exercise. So you can put your hand on your heart, or you can hold your own hand or stroke your arm, just whatever soothes you, and that will help take you into a feeling of compassion. So what I'd like you to do is just sit back for a minute and think of something in your life right now that's causing you a bit of stress. Nothing too overwhelming, just a 3 or 4 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10, just something at the moment that's challenging you a little bit. As you bring it to mind, you might just notice you're feeling a little bit of stress in your body. So we take the first step and we just say, this is a moment of suffering. We acknowledge this is how we're feeling. Using your own words, you might feel like, I feel uncomfortable, or I feel stressed, or I don't like this. But it's an acknowledgement, a validation that this is hurting you right now. And then while you're bringing this to mind, you can also remember that actually you're not alone in your suffering, that we all go through periods of challenge and stress and pain and hurt. And this connects us to each other. This is our common humanity. You can say to yourself, I'm not alone in my suffering. Others feel this way as well. And then just to put your hand on your heart or another soothing place and just feel that energy of kindness and love coming into your heart. And because you're suffering, because this is happening to you, just saying to yourself, may I be kind to myself. May I be kind to myself. Give myself that energy of love. Give myself that energy of tenderness, of kindness, of support. And just see what words come through for you. May I give myself the love that I need right now, or the care. This is just a short practice that you can do quite quickly, actually, when you notice that something is not going well in your life. It might be that you're about to have an argument with someone, or you just missed the bus, or even something much bigger. And if you're interested in following this up anymore during lockdown, I used my time in a worthwhile way and happened to co-author this book called Stillness in the Storm, which you can find on the Janki Foundation website. And within that book, there are audio tracks which will help link you to some of these self-compassion exercises. So that's all I wanted to share with you today, Tony. I hope that's been helpful. And so I'll finish right there. Thank you.
Dr. Sarah Eager, I mean, I find that absolutely inspirational. There's not many times as a broadcaster that I'm lost for words, and today is probably one of those times where I am. And I particularly was interested about the fact that where you examine yourself. One of the things that came to my mind, Dr. Sarah, was the fact that we live in such a fast environment, full of social media. We've been through the COVID pandemic, still going through it. And what you've taught us and shown us today is so absolutely relevant in our present day lives today. And it's so necessary, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and obviously I'm a retired psychiatrist, but I'm very used to helping people manage those kind of challenges in their life. And I think the more people are aware of these inner resources and learn how to build on them, then I think, and which I guess is the point of this whole fair. So I'm very delighted to have been able to contribute to that understanding that people have of the resources they have within and how to tap into that.
And we thank you for your very kind time and help in showing us your presentation and sharing with us your precious time right here on the Great Big Indian Wellness Show. Dr. Sarah Eager, thank you very much indeed for being with us right here on the Great Big Indian Wellness Show. And I'm sure we'll be speaking again, hopefully very soon.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.